All right, good morning, everyone. I'm going to welcome you to our commission meeting for February 6th. I'm going to call our meeting to order and note for the record that we do have a quorum of our entire commission. Before we get started, just friendly reminder, avoid embarrassment, silent your cell phones. And if you're going to speak today, there's a sign-up table. We just need public record of who is speaking to the commission. I'm going to ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Going to go to our routine business and look for a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now our consent agenda. Is there anyone from the public that'd like to comment on an item on our consent agenda? Our consent agenda is our routine business, bills paid, that type of thing. If so, now's your opportunity to comment on our consent agenda. We do have public comment at the end of our meeting also for non-agenda items. All right, any of our commission like to remove anything from the consent agenda? And I'm asked for a motion to approve.
So moved. Benninga. Second.
Motion by Benninga, second by Kipley. Call the roll.
Benninga.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Leinberg.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All right, then, moving on to our regular business. First agenda item there is consider a resolution to adopt the 2023 pre-disaster mitigation plan for Minnehaha and Lincoln counties. Jason Gearman, good morning, sir.
Morning, Jason Gearman with Minnehaha County Emergency Management. We're here today to consider a resolution to adopt the 2023 pre-disaster mitigation plan for Minnehaha and Lincoln County. Lincoln County has already adopted this. And the reason we do it, just so everybody's familiar, the reason we do this together is because the city of Sioux Falls falls into obviously two counties. So we do this jointly so the city doesn't have to participate in two different programs. And this pre-disaster mitigation program allows agencies to apply for disaster mitigation funds, flooding, maybe tornado shelters, that type of thing. I'm gonna turn it over to Sophie from CCOG. She maybe get up here and explain a little bit about the program and some of the difficulties that she ran into with FEMA. And Sophie, if you wanna come up.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sophie Johnson. I'm the Community Development Manager at the Southeastern Council of Governments. And as Jason said, Minnehaha and Lincoln County Offices of Emergency Management, they contracted with our organization to assist in the development of this plan. The plan's required to be updated every 5 years. So any community in Minnehaha and Lincoln County and the counties could be eligible for competitive FEMA grant funding. Just to give you a little idea on the timeline, we actually applied for the funding in December of 21, and it's February of 2024, and I'm asking you for to adopt the resolution. So it was a lengthy process, and it was a lot of back and forth. FEMA has some new standards and guidance that they put out, so it was a rigorous process of some revisions, but we got it done. And so today, kindly asking if you would consider adopting the resolution so that Minnehaha County and any of the communities within the county can be eligible for competitive grant funding. The document is permanently on our website, but it's about 600 pages long. So a lot of that is appendices and some activities that we did, but we held 5 meetings in early 2023 in which it was open to the public. Anyone was invited, but particularly the municipalities and the counties were asked to participate so that they could inform our plan and what they wanted to see in the plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Sophie? Commissioner Kipley.
Thanks for being here, Sophie. Questions just on the timeline aspect of it. We have to do this every 5 years. Is this our first time doing it, though? Or did we have a where were we? Did we do this 5 years ago, but then did it lapse somewhere in there that it took extra time? Just kind of lining up my timeline, please.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So I want to say this started in the early 2000s, and I believe CCOG's always done Minnehaha and Lincoln County's plan. But we did have a plan that was, I believe, from 2018, and it did lapse. So we need to, we're asking all communities to adopt a resolution before the end of February. That's our deadline, or else we will have an expired plan.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. And then, Mr. Chair, if I could just add on to that. So with that lesson learned and how long some of our friends in the federal government take, are we thinking ahead to the 2028, or if I'm doing my math right, the renewal, we'll want to start that earlier in the process this time?
Yes, that is a very good point, and we definitely learned some lessons as far as how long this process can take. I do think learning the new regulations and guidance was also maybe a struggle for us. It was a lot of back and forth, but now that we know it, we're hoping that we're experts.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. That's all I had.
Commissioner Bleinberg?
Thank you. Does this have any implication for townships, or what impact does it have? Because I know townships also struggle with working with FEMA and understanding that process.
Yeah, that's a good question. So this is competitive grant funding, and townships actually cannot apply on their own. They can only apply through the county. So I don't know if you all remember, a couple months ago we asked you to sponsor an application for Split Rock Township. So adopting this resolution today will allow them to be eligible for some funding. So their application is currently being considered by the South Dakota Office of Emergency Management.
So what does that process look like for a township if they found themselves in need? Who would they reach out to?
They can certainly reach out to our office, but they will need to get consent or sponsorship approval from the county. And then we would put in an application for them. The application first goes to the state for approval, and then if they like it, then they pass it on to FEMA Region 8 in Denver. And then they decide ultimately if they get funding.
Thank you.
Sophie, I think I can speak for all of us that we appreciate our relationship, our partnership with CCOG, and we pay dues to belong, and I appreciate the work that you put into this. My question is, the grant or the funding, I mean, is this for equipment? Is it for, what type of FEMA grant funding would this applied here to the counties, the townships, the municipalities? What type of grant funding would they be looking at? So
first we applied on Minnehaha County's behalf and Lincoln County's behalf to even apply for the plan. So the funding covered our time to write the plan. And then we actually had to come up with 25% match, which was done through in-kind hours from participants. So the plan's actually completely covered. And then having a active pre-disaster mitigation plan allows communities, as Jason said, a lot of popular ones are infrastructure, like safe rooms, emergency generators. You could also do studies. I know drainage studies and flooding studies are popular in the area. Trying to think of some other ones off the top of my head. Split Rock Township, they wanted some road reconstruction. They kind of had some slope failure for around Beaver Creek area. So those are some types of implementation grants that you could apply for.
So our doing this allows everybody to be eligible for, I mean, if there's a tornado, a flood, whatever that disaster is, it makes us eligible for FEMA funding.
Yeah, I do want to emphasize that this is competitive. So if there was a disaster, public assistance is still available. And I don't know, Jason probably knows better than I how that you qualify for that, but this is competitive funding.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we do take public comment on this. Anybody from the public like to address this?
I just got one more comment here.
You bet, Jason.
CCOG kept me posted as they were going through this, and it was a really difficult time because Sophie had just taken over from the previous person that was in her position, had to learn this new, and they did an excellent job with what they had. I know I spent some time on some WebExes with FEMA, and I was sure frustrated. But now next time this arises, this will be in Lincoln County. So Lincoln County will have to take up the responsibility of organizing it, getting it in front of us, and then obviously we would have to adopt it too. Most of the cities around the area have adopted this, and I believe it's on the agenda for City of Sioux Falls coming up here next Tuesday night, maybe. That's all I have.
Thank you. Again, back to public comment. Any public comment? I'll close public comment, and I'll move it to commission discussion or action.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Bender,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Karski.
Motion carries. Moving on to item 10, authorize the chair to sign the 2024 vehicle lease agreement between the Sheriff's Office and Vern ID Motor Cars. Captain Phillips.
Good morning, Captain Josh Phillips here with Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office. We've had a vehicle lease agreement with Vern 90 here for the last couple of years. The only difference in this agreement would be a 2-year contract with them. These are for 2 unmarked narcotics vehicles provided by Vern 90. Our detectives can switch those out as needed, depending what kind of cases they're working on. So Vern 90 has been very good in the last few years in doing that. This is also a very similar agreement that the Sioux Falls Police Department narcotics section has. So they're very mirrored, and so this agreement would last 2 years until December 31st, 2025. So just looking for your approval to go ahead with that agreement.
Thank you, sir. Questions of the captain? Public comment? Move on to commission action or discussion.
Move for approval.
Second?
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Benega,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All right, we're moving on to a briefing on the fourth quarter 2023 American Rescue Plan expenditures, ARPA. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning. Susan Beeman with the Auditor's Office. Just wanted to brief you today on our fourth quarter report to the U.S. Treasury. Just to remind you, we've received just over $37.5 million in ARPA funding between 21 and 22. So for fourth quarter 2023, we reported $5,108,734.61. That brings our total expenditures to date to just over $25.3 million, with the remaining unspent balance of $12.1 million remaining. Just to remind you, those are, remaining funds have to be obligated by the end of this year. At this point, we don't see any problems with getting those funds obligated by the end of the year. They have up till the end of 26 to be spent as long as they're obligated by the end of 24. Just to point out a few of the larger dollars or changes for this year, for this last quarter. You'll see just a little bit over $2.2 million reported for this last quarter for the salary increase to improve worker retention. That is the impact of the salary matrix adjustment that was approved by the commission in April of 2022. That's just the 23 impact, the whole year of 23 impact on that. Additionally, we had a new expenditure related to a IT project with attorney video storage solution. That was $20,747. Additionally, we've reported human services staffing of just over $1.7 million related to how they process applications and provide the eligible individuals in the community with access to public benefits. I'll just pause there and see if you have any questions.
Just one, Susan. It's just, I look at that burials, the 419,000, was that the entire year last year?
400 and, let's see,
Almost 420,000.
419,000 was the amount that we have spent from 2022 through third quarter of 23.
Okay.
So just over almost 2 years, and
Yeah,
then
7 quarters, yep.
correct. And then for 2 years, it's for almost $489,000 for 2 years of burials for people that were eligible in the community that met the requirements to access burial funding.
And are kind of just going back to like the South Dakota Cares, they have a lower threshold to qualify than what we do for housing and utility assistance. I mean, do we manage that as far as the qualifications for assistance? Is it the same now as it was before COVID? And will it be the same after? It's just,
Yep.
it's a lot of money.
It is. So the human services related items in here, burials, motels, rental assistance, utility assistance, that follows county policy. South Dakota Cares has a different eligibility requirement, and so anything under that program is a different federal grant. They follow the policy set by that. The county policy is what's being followed for this.
Okay, so starting next year or the following year, we're gonna be budgeting, again, probably $300,000 of taxpayer money?
Correct. So the burials, motels, rental assistance will all come on to county general funding for 2025. So 2024 will be the last year that we'll be able to access this money for that.
Yep, okay, well, get ready. Thank you. Commissioner Bender.
So this is probably more of a comment than a question, but just to follow along on what you were saying there, I mean, I think as a county and with lots and lots of help from Susan, we've been really responsible with this money that we've gotten from the federal government for ARPA and to manage taxpayer obligations and try to keep tax burdens low, but that it is going to, and we've been talking about this in our budgeting cycles for the last 2 years. Susan's done a great job of helping us forecast what's coming, but these are day-to-day expenses in a large part that we have been utilizing this ARPA funds for. So it will become part of our taxpayer-funded budget moving forward.
And we will have a larger expense for first quarter of '24 related to a payment made on the sheriff's radio tower project. There was an additional payment to Motorola in first quarter of this year. So you'll see larger expenditures flow through next quarter as well.
Okay. All right, other questions? This is just a briefing, but we do take public comment if anybody would like to comment on this. If not, thank you, Susan. Any other commission discussion? All right, moving on then to the treasurer's annual presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Swanson, County Treasurer. So I'll make this quick. So we're currently working with a full staff, which is wonderful. We've got 12 at the window, 3 part-time. Having those 3 part-time staff has been amazing because it has allowed us to now cross-train people that we have in the back. We're starting to do that pretty heavily now, cross-train those in the back, because when somebody in the back is gone, it's just really difficult to take vacations and have retirements, and all of a sudden we're trying to move a person into that position that doesn't know what they're doing. So cross-training has been really, really good. So I'm excited about that. So we moved our assistant treasurer and one of our accountants to the new office space in the back, which has worked very well. If any of you have come down to see that, it's a nice quiet area for them. They're still very, very busy, but it's been a good move back there. The daily balancing being completed faster. So in the mornings, what we do is every night they bag up the money from the windows, and then that goes in the back, gets put in the safe. The next morning, we come in and we balance those out. So due to the fact that we've got a full staff now, it's been easier to get that job done, and we're going to get done faster. And so with that being said, that allows our back staff then to be available to our front staff to answer questions, do dealership titles, go up and do transactions if they have to. It's just been a win-win for everybody. It's just been nice. One of our new procedures include bank reconciliation transactions that are being updated daily. So we have ACH transactions. ACH transactions in our general bank account have greatly increased over these last couple of years. The state of South Dakota and the federal government process most of their payments through ACH. We also have 4 departments now that take credit card payments, and those payments then come into our bank account that we put in there. And then we also receive ACH bank payments through the Heartland, which is our property tax program. So that keeps Cindy and Ellen very busy in the back. These transactions are tracked daily on a separate spreadsheet to assure our daily deposit entries are reflecting the ACH bank deposits. And I'm very glad to say that we balanced, Cindy and has been able to do an amazing job in the back. We've balanced monthly now for quite some time to the penny. So that's taken a lot of stress off of the office that way. We have a slide here. We continue to work on collecting our NSF checks. Okay. We're not looking real good right now. We were doing really well collecting on them, and we're starting to get a lot more NSF checks coming through. We do have a system where our front staff has a program that they can look at every time they take a check, and it does take a little time, but it has helped where they are able to see if there is a person on that list when taking a check. We also make sure that they've got the proper address on that check, that we've got the a phone number to get a hold of these people, unless, if there's an NSF check. But it still happens, as you can see. So what happens with that then is after we receive an NSF check, then we write a letter to them and say, you've got 10 days to clear this up, and if not, it goes to the sheriff's office, and then the sheriff takes care of that. We do put a hold on their account, though, and so that has been helpful. I do ask that people that have had, I guess I call them repeat offenders, because we do have a few of those that we've had an issue with. I do ask, and I have not had a problem with this yet, but that they do either cash or a money order when they do come in to pay. I won't take another check from them, or I won't take a credit card. I just want cash in hand so that we know that it's taken care of, and I won't have to face it again, because it has become an issue. Notices of intent to take tax deed have been sent for the 2019 delinquent taxes. We've been able to collect on a number of these. We've actually had some big ones coming in lately, so that's been great. They've been about 4 to 5 years old. We've had some $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 checks come in for delinquent taxes just over these last couple weeks. This project itself is very time consuming, because when we have somebody who's delinquent, obviously, and we get our hand, we get a fair amount, then we have to do title searches. We have to get all this information out, and then we have to contact family, and then we have to, after we contact them, if you can't reach the family, then you have to publish. It's just quite a process, and so it's always nice when we can try to get these people to pay before we have to actually start this process. But again, 9 times out of 10, they'll come in and pay right before the sale. So it's all this work for like, oh shoot, put all this work into it, and I'm glad they've cleared it up, but it's just made work for us. We started our first, I give credit to Leah for this, our first online auction last fall, I believe it was, and I think it worked very well. I really like it. I'm looking forward to our next one, which we're looking for October of this 2024. So then we have our PMBs, the titles, I guess. The titles comes next. We have a slide for that too. So the number of titles varies each month. Summer obviously is going to be higher as we're titling boats, trailers, and motorcycles side by side. And you can kind of see the differences in the amount there. There are 7 PMB addresses in Sioux Falls, and PMB stands for personal mailbox. These people they live primarily out of state, and they choose to register their vehicles in our state. The PMB service forwards the mail to the customer. We have a total of 13,700 PMB customers in our Minnehaha County alone. And I'm just gonna leave that alone. So the next slide then breaks down the number of registrations per types of vehicles. You can see, non-commercial, trailer plates, motorcycles, commercial vehicles. You can kind of see the amount there. Of course, it's gonna be a lot of your lost my place here, non-commercials that are the most. The state receives 58% of the fees for this, and the county receives the rest after that, after these fees are paid. We have been collecting mail fees for out-of-state and mail-in titles for the last couple years now. I remember when I came up here and I had asked to get that approved. Last year we brought in $79,636, and we're on track for that or more this next year, so that's been helpful. Our phone responses, and I think we've got a slide for that too, but we've got phone responses. We've got 4 to 5 people on the phone at all times. Abandoned calls are the ones where the caller listens and they'll either hang up or they'll listen to the cue and then hang up, or they don't want to wait, and so they'll just hang up. Hold time is usually less than 30 seconds, a little bit longer when it comes to tax season, but we've done very well, I think, with controlling our phone calls and keeping that wait time down to a minimum. And then last, we are currently in the thick of the elderly tax application season. It has been very busy already in the last couple of weeks, where I've just recently logged about 150 applications when we're looking for about 1,000 this year. And so, yeah, we're gonna be busy the next few months. And then for my goals for the following year really would just be to add another ADA window on the north end of our our windows. We have a lot of wheelchairs, walkers, even strollers that come through that line, and there is just no room to get through there. So, and a lot of them say that when they come in that window, they say, well, there's no place to park down on this end. The parking places are all taken, so they're coming in this end. And it's created a problem for a few of them. So that is kind of where so the goals is for another window. And then I guess to just continue to cross-train and get ready for, and I did want to mention, I'm kind of going off track here, but we do have our new South Dakota car system being able to start their thinking next spring. So we'll have training for that coming this fall sometime. And that's pretty much it.
South Dakota Cars is not the same thing as South Dakota Cares, right?
No, a little bit different. This one is supposed to apparently have a few more features. I don't know what they'll be yet, and it's supposed to be a more friendly, user-friendly application. So hopefully that is true.
Okay. All righty. Questions for Chris? Commissioner Bender.
Less of a question, more just of compliments. I mean, I really appreciate all the work that you've done in your office, and you highlighted some of your accomplishments, but those of us that have been around for a while, just the customer service side, are really seeing a lot of improvement. I mean, people were waiting hours on phone calls that weren't getting picked up previously. Lines were, and lines will get longer as the summer comes along, and people, those of you who want to buy a boat, you should buy it now so you can get a nice short line. But I really do appreciate the changes that you've made for the benefit of the taxpayers so that they get better customer service. And for the commission, just the work that you've done to get accounts balanced is remarkable and refreshing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bleinberg.
Thank you. I just kind of wanted to echo the same thing. I have recently, we sold a vehicle, and as we were exchanging all the information, the comment from the buyer was just that getting the title work done is just so much easier than it used to be. So I just wanted to pass that on, that we hear that
Thank you.
out
Glad
from
to
the
hear
public too, that people notice and appreciate it. So
Good. I'm
thank you.
glad to hear that. Thank you.
Commissioner Benega.
Well, I'm going to be the third one to appreciate your service because frankly, in the past, we've dealt with lots of discussions that were not real positive about the whole issue of management and hours of friendly service and phone calls and waiting in line for longer periods of time. And for whatever reason, when we show up on Tuesday mornings and other times when we're here, the lines have been much shorter. I've not received a negative phone call about, I know, I hated to bring that up because it'll come back to haunt me. But anyway, I really do appreciate it because it literally has saved commissioners a ton of times with the way you've managed your office. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I guess the only thing I have, well, a couple things. What time do you open to do titles in the morning?
We have two windows open at 7:30.
7:30.
And then I let those people, they get to leave at 4:30.
Okay, so thank you for that. That's, part of that good management and outside the box thinking.
And that is done, everybody knows now, but word of mouth. I have not actually published that. It's just because otherwise we're going to get huge long lines coming in better. So I just like when they trickle in a little bit in the mornings like that.
Yep.
But yeah, it helps a lot.
I was at one of the grocery stores and I couldn't believe the line at the end of January for the kiosk that was at a Hy-Vee, and it was 2 days in a row. And I asked, is it always that way? Because, there were 15 people in line. She said, yeah, the end of the month, it'll go all the way back to the pharmacy. So, so I know people are using those too, but I know that.
Say, go down to the treasurer's office, there's no line.
I didn't want to do that, but I thought about it. So, question on the NSF checks, Chris.
Yes.
How much of those do we write off? Just never collect?
Very few.
Okay.
Very few. I don't have a number, but I know it's very few.
Okay.
Katie, the gal that works on those down there, she works really hard to get those collected.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it costs us a lot of money to do that.
it
but,
does.
I mean, if you pay for your vehicle registration with an NSF check, we don't go out and pull the plates off the vehicle.
No.
But, I mean, what implications are there for that?
There's not. That's
Okay.
the problem, and that's what frustrates me is, you know, with property taxes, you can, if you get a bad check, at least you can say, okay, oh, you know, you can get that, you know, that it's not gonna affect that property, because we'll get that property back. They'll, you know, still owe that money. But when you send somebody out with their tags and, you know, their plates and registration, and we're not gonna go ask the sheriff's department to go pull them off a vehicle, you know, but
Okay.
I could try,
Almost
but I don't think
should.
it's gonna work, but, yeah.
What about the mailing fees? Are they covering the expenses now?
I think we're doing pretty good with that. I do know that, and I just heard this morning, there was a Senate Bill 112 that passed through the Senate unanimously, where non-residents will pay an additional $100. And 50%, it's a 50% split, or 50-50 split, so the state would get 50, we'd get 50, so I don't know if that would help with, you know, some of the mailing, but I'm guessing that might be something we might wanna readdress in the future, because I know some counties, ask for $50 for out-of-state mail-ins like that,
And what do we charge?
25.
Okay. Okay. So, good to know. Further discussion? Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Public comment on our treasurer's annual presentation. Thank you, Chris.
Glenn Fursterberg, Minnehaha County. I want to also confirm that, you know, I've lived in Sioux Falls since '84, and over the years bought license plates every year. It is a lot better. Over the years, back in '84, '85, and all the way through the '90s, it was, you know, everybody was crabby behind the counter. I mean, I'm sure you guys heard it. But boy, I tell you what, they are running very well. I would suggest on the bad check thing, can you have something, and I know I may be speaking out of line, but can we have something on the registration or something in some kind of paperwork that says if it's a bad check, license plates are void? So you're driving without license plate, you're driving without registration. Can something like that be implemented?
Good question.
And then the other question I would have is the mail. I know she said something about the mail receipts again. What does that mean? So like, how are you collecting from mail? Is that when people order their plates by the mail? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That's what that is. Okay.
Yeah,
I just
so-
asking.
So there is a charge if, like with the plates right now, if you wanna mail your plates in, well, this is kind of a little bit different, but you mail your plates into $750 to mail the plates out, $1.50 for registration. But we also have a fee of $25 where we have our out-of-staters, a lot of our PMB
Okay.
people,
Okay.
that will send in their titles. And they come to the back office, and that's when we process them back there. It's an additional $25 to do that. And they're very
Thanks for the
happy. I
answer.
mean, they have never had a problem paying that, so,
Thanks for your hard
yeah,
work.
you're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Any other public comment? Any commission discussion? All right, moving on then to some abatements. We have an abatement application recommended for denial on parcel 22-837 for the 2023 property tax year, $1,128. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Lilly, Equalization Director. Yeah, unfortunately, some of these are our office trying to take care of the veterans. When a veteran walks into the office with their paperwork and requests to fill out the application, you know, we don't have all of the data in front of us right at that time. So that's the majority of this. So we have them fill out that abatement. And then we find out, then we get back to the details once they leave and have time to research their parcel and everything, and discovered that on this 22-837, unfortunately, veterans exemption is tied to owner occupancy. They had to own it, they had to occupy it, it had to be the principal residence in the year they're applying for. So this one, we had the abatement application filled out probably prematurely, and then we discovered after the fact that they didn't own it prior to November 1st to qualify for owner occupied. So unfortunately, we've received the application for abatement, but we do have to recommend it for denial. They are going to be on the approval list for 24, pay 25 as they are owner occupied, so.
Jumped the gun. Okay. Questions of Chris? Public comment? Commission action?
I'll move to deny.
Move to deny. Yeah, so yes means no, okay. A roll call vote, please.
Kipley.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Bender. Benega. Karski.
Aye. Abatement application is denied. And moving on to exact same thing for parcel 23026.
Yep, this one's a little bit different. So this one here, the veteran has came in, they are paid at 100%. Again, I've mentioned this before to commission, and I wish the VA would come out with one standard letter for permanently and totally disabled veterans. However, there's still a multitude of letters that they receive. Some of them, they don't say permanent and total on them, but then they say dependents indemnity. And if they get that, they're 100%. So there's a lot of variations that we have to look for and screen through those documents. Unfortunately for this individual, they're paid at the 100%, but they are not considered by the VA to be permanent and total yet, which means their rating could be reviewed and go down to 90 or 50 or something of that. So again, when they came in and applied, we took the application, which now unfortunately will also be on the list for a recommended denial for 24, pay 25 coming up in April. But as far as the abatement right now, not permanent and total at this time, and we verified that, so we have to recommend it for denial.
Questions for Chris? Public comment? Hey, Chris, I know as a veteran yourself, as well as I am, that, you take these things and you want to do everything you can to help them, but we do have to follow state statute, so. All right, look for commission action.
I'll move to deny.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Kipley.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. 15, consider abatement application recommended for denial on parcel 83706 for the 2023 property year taxes 2521.
This situation is the same as the first one. The veteran applying for it did not own and occupy the home prior to November 1st. So again, we have to recommend it for denial. They are going to be on the list for 24, pay 25 qualifying.
Okay. Questions? Commissioner Bender.
So I'm curious whether you've done anything different with your procedure so that folks are told earlier in the process that they're not eligible?
Yeah, it's kind of a catch-22. Again, somebody walks in and they're doing it, and we look, and a lot of times you can look at the computer and see, it's in their name and all of that. It's after they leave when we get back and we start processing these to pull and compile all of the data that then we see that sales date. And we'll try and do a better job of looking at that, at that time, but then that extends their time at the counter as well. And it's kind of a you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't type situation. So we want to be efficient with them. We want to be courteous with them. We want to help them as quickly as possible and not have them, because a lot of these veterans that come in there, I mean, they can't even hardly come to the window. We leave and go out, and we've got another table set up out there because they can't stand at the window. So we go out and assist them there. So again, we'll try and do a better job of pre-looking at that before we have these filled out so we don't have to bring these here, but it's never going to be perfect.
Can I
Do you
ask
have
a
a check?
follow-up?
Go ahead.
Oh, and maybe you're going to ask the same question. I mean, to me, it sounds like it's as simple as a line on the form that says, when did you purchase your home?
No, it's not. We have to go
Okay.
back and research through the computer system, through the transfer history of those parcels to determine when that instrument date occurred.
But wouldn't it alert the person applying that if they know that they didn't purchase the home?
No, on the form, I don't even know. I don't have a form here. I don't know. Do we have a form in the packet?
I don't think so.
I think it does say on there, but a lot of them, they look at the year and they don't know there's a November 1st date associated with that. No, that's just the forms that should be. Oh, that's all there is in there? Okay. Yeah, the application said, did you own your home? But it doesn't have the November 1st. So if they bought it in December, they owned it in 23, and in their mind, they qualify. And that's some of the contention that we have. November 1st is a hard line, and we have people all the time with owner occupancy with exemptions and things like that, well, I'm taxed January, but you didn't own it. You owned it on November 15th. We can't give you owner occupancy. I can't give you the vet exemption. I can't give you even like an elderly freeze exemption if you didn't own it and occupy it on November 1st. So they look at it and think, well, the form says, did you own your home in 2023? Yes, I did. Well, not by November 1st.
Which it seems like, at least if we put on the form, did you own your property by November 1st?
This isn't our form, this is a state form, and I can sure check and see if that could be added onto the form, but
Okay.
it's a state application form.
It would just save the person
Right.
getting denied, is what I'm trying to think, provide the information.
I
And
wish I
they
had
might
numbers on
not
how many
know.
of them that we do catch that don't get to this point.
This just is more than we've seen in a while, from my perspective, and that's why I'm asking.
There's been a big influx this year of veterans exemptions, and I think the PACT Act coming in through the Veteran Services has now pushed a volume of people that used to be 80 or 90% disabled. Now with PACT Act through Gulf War, there's a lot of presumptive illnesses now that they don't need to prove, and so sinusitis, for instance, is one of them that they're probably going to get 30%. Well, that will now push them over 100. And if they're over 100 and the VA deems them that they're not going to get better, they will grant them permanent total. So we've had a big influx of these as of recently. So you're seeing a lot more. I mean, we probably averaged 15 to 20 a year in years past, and now we're probably tapping 50, 60 just this year of permanent total that are just now achieving that. So with the higher volume, we're going to have higher volume of everything. So, but we'll try and cut down and make sure we try and get these before we have them fill out those abatement forms, because once they're filled out, we have to process. I can't say, oh no, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Bleinberg.
You. Can you give me an idea of what the timeline looks like for one of these applicants and how they receive communication from us, letting them know?
On the abatements?
Yeah. Or the denial of?
Oh, most of these here, the office has contacted them and by phone and
Okay.
said, hey, we notify them that we're gonna have to recommend it for denial. It'll be on this commission meeting if they wanna come in, but we explain it. I don't think I've ever had anybody come in here. They understand once they get the details and they're like, oh, okay. And they're happy that they're getting it moving forward. We just can't go retroactive and go back in the taxes. So timeline when somebody comes in, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks from when they come into our office to apply for us to fill it out, for it to get entered into the parcel manager system, to track through the auditor's office to calculate the taxes, the state's attorney's office to make sure it meets all the legal criteria. My office, I have to sign off digitally, finally to the commission to get put on the agenda, and then a week later it's heard, and now it still has to go through the city in most cases. So it's about a month and a half process before the final outcome of the abatements, whether for or not, are through the system. So
Okay. Thank you.
Public comment. Commission action.
I'll move to deny.
Second.
Motion and a second for denial. Call the roll.
Kipley,
Aye.
Bleinberg,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries. Last one. Consider abatement applications recommended for denial on parcel 93453 for the 2023 year property taxes, $2,113.94.
same situation, the property was not owned or occupied for prior to November 1. So unfortunately for this one, we do have to deny. But they will qualify for 24, pay 25. So next year they'll receive that exemption.
All righty. Commission questions? Public comment? Commission action.
I'll move to deny.
Second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Kipley,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Bleinberg,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Authorize the chair to sign an MOU between Minnehaha County and South Dakota State University for 4-H programming. Hi, Tom.
Good morning, Tom Greco, Commission Administrative Officer. The current contract supporting the 4-H program expires later this month. This particular memorandum of understanding before you does have some minor changes from last year, primarily regarding the cost share for one employee youth program advisor position in the amount of $26,500. The remainder of the memorandum of agreement basically outlines the framework and structure by which the county supports the program. Among those things include things like certain office administrative support in terms of an employee down there, Beth, and certainly support in terms of travel expenditures and other costs associated with the 4-H program in the county. I would request your approval of this memorandum of understanding. Nathan and Aubrey, our two youth program advisors, are here in the audience if you have any particular questions. Nathan was here last November to provide an update on 4-H, and you could expect to hear an update from him again, or Aubrey, in March.
Okay. Questions from the commission? Public comment?
Commissioner Karski.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Commissioner
No, that's
Bender.
okay. And I may have just misheard you. Did you say that there was a change in the cost share for the
Just the amount, the budgeted amount. So last year, we budgeted $26,500, and that's what's reflected in this.
Okay.
It's not the mathematics behind it, the
just the
allocation.
general?
Yeah, the number.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Public comment? All right. Commission action.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you, commissioners. Call the roll.
Blyenberg,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, we have another briefing on the Safety Committee 2023 Annual Report. Good morning, Carrie. Oh, Doug, how you doing? Good morning. I had Carrie down.
Surprise, it's me. Good morning, Commissioners. Doug Blumker with the Office of Emergency Management, but I'm representing the Safety Committee this morning. Each year we have to do an annual report as far as our activities in the last year, and I'm going to talk a little bit, just real briefly, about 2023 and as far as what happened with the Safety Committee. We meet monthly, and we have several members of the committee, myself, Tyler Grong, Mark Hahnemann, Mike McGovern, Melinda Story, and Maggie Gary. At our meetings, we talk about various things. We talk about any liability claims that have come into the commission office, also any workman's comp type of issues, any injuries that we can talk about. We look at those, try and see if there's any preventable action that we can take in the future to prevent those types of things. Any things that we have coming up in the future as far as any trainings that we were required to do to meet some requirements from the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance, and then any other concerns that we might have that might be coming to the forefront that we need to look at as far as safety issues for the county. As far as trainings go, we offer these as a part of a requirement that the Public Assurance Alliance requires of us. This last year, we did trainings in Stop the Bleed, fire extinguisher, defensive driving, back injury prevention, slips, trips, and falls. Some of those are required. Stop the Bleed was one that we added in as an elective that is not necessarily required. But this last year, we did obtain 9 Stop the Bleed kits, and those were distributed across the county in various locations, just in case we have a mass injury type of event that might happen. And we wanted to train our personnel up in that so they're aware of how to use those as well. We do building inspections also. We walk through the various locations on the county campus, as well as some of our other satellite buildings across the county, just to check and see if there's any concerns as far as any hazards that might present themselves to our employees or anybody in the public. And then we make recommendations to various department heads or people at the buildings as far as, moving electrical cords if they're a trip hazard, or objects that may be on a high shelf that could fall and possibly injure somebody. So various activities like that. There's a form that we fill out for every one of these that we do, and then we store them, and then we can look back at them in future years to see if there's any type of repeat type of things that we need to address with people if they keep doing this type of stuff. So just to make sure that they're following along with what we need to do to keep ourselves safe. We, through various activities that we do, as well as activities that are required by the Public Assurance Alliance and Safety Benefits, this last year we were awarded the platinum level. And every year since I've been on the Safety Committee, which I'm ashamed, or not ashamed, but kind of shocked to tell you how many years that might be, but we've received at least gold, and platinum has been there a number of times, and we're very pleased because we have a very active Safety Committee. Everybody's very active and does a great job, and I can't be more proud of everybody what we do. So I'm up here talking, but it's a group effort, and I'm just really, really pleased with the people that we have. But platinum is where we were at last year. One of the requirements also that we're required to do is that we attend a safety conference every fall in Pierre. Myself, Mike McGovern, Mark Hahnemann, and Melinda Story attended that. Usually they have some group discussions and presentations, but also there's some breakout sessions that we can go to and learn on various subjects that we can bring back to the county and hopefully improve our safety program as well through that. And then finally, through the work that we do for the safety measures that we are required to do, but also the things that we try and stress to our county people, that I'm really pleased to say that we had a lost credit come back to us this last year in the amount of $64,744 that came back to the county just through the safety requirements that we were required to do, but just through the efforts of the safety committee and the hard work of the committee, and but also the employees as far as going along and just making ourselves a safe environment to work in. So having said that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Questions for Doug? Commissioner Bleinberg.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you to the whole committee for the work that you guys have been doing. I was able to take advantage of the training for the Stop the Bleed at a museum staff meeting. It was very well done, hands-on. I think everybody learned quite a bit. I'm curious, where are the Stop the Bleed kits located, and are they marked or?
Yes, they're marked in large red bags. They should be in various locations. I think there's one or two in this building. I'd have to go back and look at the various locations where they were. I know Melinda was kind of had a list, but I can't tell you off the top of my head where they at. I think there's probably one up on Highway up there and some various locations.
Sure.
So, sorry.
No, that's okay. I just thought it's very helpful information to have the staff aware of in case it was needed.
And I mean, we're looking at other things too. There's certain things we have to do every year to meet requirements. Slip, strips, and falls. The back injury is just every year we're required to do that. There's other ones that we require, every other year. For example, fire extinguisher training. Last couple years we did this via online training, which has greatly helped a lot because people, if they have a break, they can click a link and they can just watch it quickly on there, and then we can track that and see who's taken it. And having set up for a number of years, having people come out and the fire department will come out and set up some type of a device where they can spray and use the fire extinguisher. We might get, I think the least we ever had was like 5 people. Most time it's 7 or 8. This last time we did it, we were closer to 50. So people are watching it. So online seems to be a great way to do that, and that helps a lot. And then this year also, we were able to do a lot of the other trainings online. We did them all in one day. It took less than an hour. We had some videos that they could watch and come into the training room next door, and we were able to do that very, very quickly and just knock it out one day, which really, really helped. We've talked this year about, as far as an elective, we haven't done CPR, some first aid training, and we think that's probably something that we try and do that every 3 or 4 years, and we haven't done that for a while. So that's something we're looking at trying to set up at some point this year as well.
Thank you.
I guess the only thing I would say, Doug, and I appreciate you monetizing it, that $64,000, almost $65,000. That's a very subjective thing that work comp says if you do this, you will get that credit. So that's, and we are not self-insured for work comp. It does go through the South Dakota Municipal League, the work comp program. So, but more importantly than the monetizing is it's the safety for all of the employees of Minnehaha County. We want everybody to come to work safe and go home the same way. So
Exactly.
Thank you for what that committee does. So
Thanks.
Any public comment? All right, that was a briefing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Briefing on proposed changes to the employee handbook. I bet we get Carrie this time.
Good morning, Carrie
Good
Deaver
morning.
from Human Resources. I'm here to brief you on several updates that we're looking at for the employee handbook and a couple of new additions. As a quick summary of those, we'd like updates to our disability and our religious accommodation sections of the handbook to tweak some items regarding accommodations so they're more clear and they reflect current standards for accommodations. For 10.1, we are proposing a change in the Christmas Eve benefit section. There's no change in the benefit itself. We're simply making some language changes to make it more clear. On 11.9, we're requesting some changes on workers' compensation to clarify how the leave and the work comp payments work, and also to make sure that employees understand the workers' compensation payment is not subject to tax. On 12.0, our drug-free workplace policy, we're looking at making revisions to clarify that THC is in some legally obtained products, and we want employees to be aware of that and be aware as well that if they are called in for a random or reasonable suspicion that that could result in a positive drug test result in violation of the policy. We're proposing 2 new sections, one on pay transparency, so employees are aware that pay is transparent, of course, in our government entity. And then new policy 15.16 on animals in the workplace. Currently, the county doesn't have a policy governing animals for employees, and this would just set the standards for those. Our intent is to brief you and answer any questions today on those changes, and then bring it back at the end of February, requesting approval on the 21st, for the 21st.
Okay. Questions for Carrie? Is there a committee that does this, or is it just your department that does this?
Our department usually starts the draft. You know, all of these come up from something. Either we're watching legislative changes, or an issue comes up, or a question comes up, or when we go pull the handbook to administer the Christmas Eve benefit, we go, oh, that could be a little bit more clear. We'll draft the language. It's discussed with department heads or routed to them for review and feedback. The Civil Division of the State's Attorney's Office is heavily involved in taking a look at those as well, and then we're bringing them to you.
Thank you. All right, public comment. Seeing none, well, thank you, Carrie, and I'm sure we'll see the finished product here in a few weeks. All right. Next up, briefing on proposed updates to the Drug and Alcohol Testing Procedures Manual.
So no surprise, this one's coming up because we're looking at the update to the policy on drug-free. So very similar reasons. This all relates to THC and making sure that people are aware, and procedurally as we're administering the policies that we're aware of those changes and where you can find THC and that it may be legally obtained.
Okay.
Commissioner Kersey.
Commissioner Bender.
And I could have made the same comment on the last set of policies, but I really thank the HR department for bringing up these issues with THC. It's very confusing for a lot of people, including myself, and I get asked some of these questions in my other job as well. But THC is legal in some respects, but it can be it can have adverse effects in that it does show up in your system. It can be at a higher quantity than you expected it to be because those products are not very well regulated on a federal level. And so it is a tricky thing, and people need to be aware of it, not accidentally run afoul of the rules thinking that they're doing something perfectly legal.
All righty. Any other comments? Public comment. Will this be coming back with the other one?
On February 20th, it'll be coming back, yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, thank you, Carrie.
All right, thank you.
We're moving on then to our Planning Park Department annual presentation.
Good morning, Scott Anderson, Planning Director, and today I will be presenting some general information on the Planning Department and what we've accomplished in the past year, where we're going. So I did provide you a short memo that goes over some of the permits and the numbers that we racked up for last year. And I think most importantly, it is important to notice that our building activity was quite strong. We did $88 million evaluation of building permits. What was interesting was that the number of building permits stayed relatively the same, which would indicate then that we had several large projects. Probably the largest project was the Tri-Valley High School, or the Tri-Valley School that's being built. I don't know if it's a high school, I think it might be middle school. But there's a Tri-Valley School that's being built, that's in the county. And then we had several larger commercial developments. SDN Communication, I think, came in with a larger project. So that's all good because our budgets are, of course, based on growth and valuation. So with that, you can go through the rest of the memo. The rest of the numbers were generally the same, or not greatly increased from the year before. So if we'd go to the PowerPoint presentation, Trish. Thank you. So to go over some of the things that we have done and we are ongoing, code enforcement and CUP inspections. We issue the building permits and septic inspections. Our building inspector does between 1,500 and 2,000 inspections a year. And I think it's important to note that one building permit may result in 3, 4, or 5 inspections because there's a footing inspection, and there may be several footing inspections because they may have several footings that they're pouring for each project. There's a framing inspection. There may be several framing inspections depending on how they progress with the project, and then there's a final inspection. So the public is aware, our office, the county, does not conduct plumbing or electrical inspections. Those are done through the state. And when an applicant comes into our office and applies for a building permit, there's a information sheet that's printed out with the building permit that indicates a number, the phone number to call to get the permit for the state wiring and the state plumbing, electrical and plumbing permit. So we work with the state on those. Last year, you may recall, we worked with adopting regulations for transmission pipelines, and we also updated our zoning ordinance for intermodal shipping containers and how we deal with those and how we will handle those going forward. We digitized several past years' worth of rezoning variances and text amendments. It was about 550 different rezonings, variances, and text amendments that we are now have it on a digital platform. Last year in April, we obtained our new GIS imagery and pictometry, which is used by several departments in the county, as well as it's online for the public to use. So what we are currently doing and where we're going, we continue always to do code enforcement and CUP inspections. We're continually issuing building permits. We're processing staff reports for various applications like conditional use permits, variances, plats. We work with the public on general inquiries and zoning explanations. We update our zoning ordinance as needed based on trends that we may see. We continue to organize our older documents and paper, digitizing those as time becomes available. And more importantly, we have started last year and will be ongoing this year, doing some reorganization, research for our comprehensive plan update. And with that in mind, I do have later a little bit of a slide that I'll go over, sort of a timeline for you, so everyone can understand where we would be going with our comp plan update. So part of the next chart that you'll see is sort of a general recap of our code enforcement and how many files, complaints, and that we have taken in the past year. And once again, even though these may not represent a large number of zoning complaints, it should be noted that when we do receive a complaint, it can result in several months worth of activity and work, because we go out, we inspect the site, we verify that there's an issue. At that point, we start working with the property owner to bring them into compliance. And that bringing them into compliance may result in several months worth of work, outreach, notification, and site visits, working with them on what needs to be done to rectify the zoning issue or the nuisance complaint. And when that fails, it may necessitate bringing them to the county commission and having the site declared a nuisance, which allows us to clean that up. That's of course our last resort, because it takes away the opportunity for the property owner to be responsible for that property and clean up, and also may result in them losing material that they feel is valuable. And some of that material can be put inside buildings or sold or whatever to benefit that property owner. So the next slide goes over some of the information that we have taken in for conditional use permits, or represents the number of conditional use permits, rezoning variances, temporary use permits, text amendments, preliminary plans, plats, special events. And I'll let those numbers speak for themselves, and if you have questions about them, you sure feel free to ask me. And then finally, what we'll be doing, we continue to review our zoning ordinances, text amendments. We continue to work with the Parks Department to provide recreational activities and opportunities for the public. We continue to work with IT to improve our permitting system to parcel manager. Interesting fact, or what I found was very interesting in the last, I think it's about a year and a half ago, we started making credit card payments available for building permits. And last year, we collected $60,000 on our credit cards for building permits. And I think that is a benefit to the public, that there's another option for payment for them. I was surprised it was that much, but we did run a report, or we got a report from our credit card and verified that was correct. So the next slide is the timeline that I indicated. One of the major tasks or events that we'll be working on, and we have already started working on with the Planning Commission, is an update to our comprehensive plan. We have several chapters that we have updated, reviewed. We've taken it to the Planning Commission. We have had some very good discussions. Of note, of the most one of the most important portions of that comprehensive plan is how we are going to deal with future development and density zoning. We have a very good history, which we have prepared and we have submitted to the Planning Commission, and we will be discussing it. Our last meeting ran rather late, so it was prepared for that meeting. It will be on the February meeting, and we will be looking at how to move forward with dealing with our density zoning and development requests that we receive in our office. The Planning Commission will make a decision on how they would like to review this, if we will be preparing or creating a task force potentially of people, experts that represent the development community, agriculture, citizens, on how we'd like to move forward with that. But basically, we're looking at a 4 to 6 month time period of presenting stuff to the Planning Commission. Then we anticipate having some public open houses where we will present the information that we have prepared, that the Planning Commission has reviewed. At that point, we would present the updated comprehensive plan to the County Commission, and that would be a 2 to 3 month adoption period where we would be able to answer questions and continue to fine tune and refine it based on your comments. And then the implementation, of course, is always ongoing. So with that, I would be glad to answer any questions that you have. That in a nutshell is what we do. We always continue to work with our partners in the community, and that is all the cities, CCOG, the MPO, townships. We work closely with the townships. So we work closely with Sioux Falls, Lincoln County. So I'll stand by for any questions that you have.
Commissioner Bender.
So I appreciate this timeline on the 2035 Envision plan. I'm curious, so do you have a date that you think it's going to come to the commission?
Well, not a specific date, because part of the reason there is no specific date is because I do not know how much time the Planning Commission would like to take to review items. They may want to take several months to review the density zoning and the development portion of the comprehensive plan. So I do not have a specific date for you.
Okay, so you're in that 4 to 6 month period that you're estimating for the
Yes.
Planning Commission.
Yes.
And then, okay, thank you.
So has this already started?
Yes, it has already started. We've presented, I believe, 3 chapters, 3 sections of the updated comprehensive plan to the Planning Commission for review. And we have we have another section ready to go, which is the development portion, the density zoning portion of the comprehensive plan that is ready to go. It was on the agenda already. It has been, the information's been provided to the Planning Commission. We didn't really have it, we did not discuss it because our January meeting ended up going till almost 10 o'clock. And we felt that really we needed some more significant time than where everyone was at the night for Planning Commission. So we decided to continue it till the next meeting in order to really allocate the appropriate amount of time to evaluate that chapter.
I'm really interested in this, Scott, and you said a couple of things that kind of piqued my attention. You mentioned a task force, and I'm glad to hear that because I think this is the type of thing that really needs a lot of public input. How are you going to recruit members to that task force?
Well, that will be discussed at the Planning Commission. Okay. I have reached out to CCOG, and they have graciously agreed to help us select or maybe make suggestions for citizens on the task force. We would probably also reach out to the home builders. As I indicated, I think we need a wide variety of interests. So we'd be probably looking at the Planning Commission appointing maybe some ag representatives like Ag United. So there's a number of pools of people that we would probably pull from to represent, like I said, the agricultural community, the business/development community, and the residents or the residential community of the county.
Okay, thank you. Well, good luck. I'm glad to see you doing this. I don't mean good luck and like, holy cow, it's a big heavy lift. It is.
It is.
It is, and but I'm glad to see you doing it. So thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, that was a briefing. Moving on then to next agenda item. Oh, public comment. I'm sorry. Anybody want any public comment on the presentation? All right. Moving on, consider bid results and award recommendation for MC 1710 gravel crushing and authorize chair to sign agreement with First Rate Excavate. Morning, Steve.
Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent. 2 years ago, the Highway Department was able to acquire a lot of river silt that was being dredged from Skunk Creek from the city of Sioux Falls. Part of our Highway 149 project south of Colton is going to use this material for inslope filling. Last fall, Jacob Mars, our assistant superintendent, was working with JSA, our consulting engineers, and after conversations with some area contractors, decided that the county could save some money by pulling out the gravel crushing portion of that project and doing it as a separate bid. And they were correct. We did save money. We had $270,000 budgeted for this effort, and the low bid from First Rate was $91,802. We're very satisfied with that, and we're looking for your permission to proceed with that contract.
Questions for Steve? Good job. Public comment? All right. Commission action.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Benega.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All right, consider bid results and award recommendation for MC 2401 microsurfacing and crack seal, and authorize chair to sign agreement with Asphalt Surface Technologies. Your show, Steve.
All right, once again, Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent. We opened bids for microsurfacing and crack sealing. We had very good bid results from the two bidders. Our budget for this year, our engineer estimate was $2.9 million. Aztec was the low bidder at just under $2.4 million. We're seeking your authorization to proceed with our contract with Aztec.
Commission questions? Public comment? Commission action.
Make a motion to approve?
Second?
Motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Bender.
Aye.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All right, we're through 3 pages of our agenda, only 2 to go. All right, consider a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the highway superintendent to extend time period of reduced load limits warranted by unseasonable highway and climactic conditions. So,
Once again, Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent. January was a very interesting month weather-wise. Seems like we had all our entire winter so far in 2 weeks. And with the rapid warm-up, I know some of the southern counties have been noticing frost coming out of the roads already. Clay County was planning on implementing their load limits today already. For reference, last year we implemented spring load limits on March 13th, which is more typical. I talked with State's Attorney's Office last week, and we found out that South Dakota codified law prohibits us from implementing spring load restrictions prior to February 15th without a resolution from the commission. Next week's weather is going to be a little bit cooler. We haven't noticed any shifting in our roads yet, but to be proactive, I'm asking your permission to have the ability to implement spring load limits earlier if warranted next week.
all right, questions for Steve? Commissioner Blindberg.
I'm just curious, how do the operators know when the load limits are put in place?
We send out emails, it goes on our website, it's pretty well communicated.
Okay.
And we try to do it so that our neighboring counties and the DOT all do it at the same time. I've had a lot of conversations with the neighboring highway superintendents the last week. So we try to all do it at the same time just to make it more universal.
Thank you.
Other questions? Public comment? All right, commission action.
Move approval?
Second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Blindberg.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Bender.
Aye.
Benega.
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All right, moving on. Authorize the chair to sign the balancing change order for MC 2109 Highway Bridge Structure 50, 279, 140 rehabilitation.
Once again, Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent, seeking your permission to charge our pay our contractor less than what we originally planned to pay him. The majority of the $37,129 is coming from $28,350 in liquidated damages since they completed the project 21 days past their contract date. Seeking your approval to process this change order so we can close out the project.
Questions? Public comment? Turn to the commission for action.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Benega, second by Kipley. Call the roll.
Benega.
Aye.
Kipley.
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Another balancing change order for MC 1710 Highway 149 reconstruction.
Once again, Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent. In this case, we are increasing our contract by $35,602 during the course of this project on Highway 149. Several of the culvert and structure crossings under the road, we encountered poor soils, so we had to increase the amount of excavation and bringing in clean fill.
One of those infamous vertical curves on here.
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, commission questions? Public comment? Commission action?
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Motion and second, call the roll.
Bender,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Consider a motion to authorize the Highway Department to advertise for the new gravel pit building.
Once again, Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent. Back in May of 2022, the area was hit by a derecho. We had a pole barn out at the gravel pit that was destroyed in that storm. We submitted our damage assessment to FEMA, and we were awarded $125,923 to replace this structure. We are ready to put the replacement pole barn out for bids. We're seeking your permission to advertise for this replacement.
Questions for Steve? Is this where you parked the bulldozer?
Yes.
All righty. Public comment? Commission action?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, still on the Highway Department. Consider a motion to declare the listed Highway Department equipment as surplus and authorize disposal through auction.
Last one, I promise. Steve Groen, Highway Superintendent. This is just a routine business. We've been taking delivery of new equipment, and as we're putting equipment into service, we are looking to surplus these older pieces of equipment. Of course, we got our new snow blower just when the weather warmed up, so he'll be ready to go next year, hopefully.
You heard it here. No more snow this winter.
Yes. No.
All right, any other questions for Steve? Public comment? Seeing none, commission action.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Bender, second by Blyenberg. Call the roll.
Bender,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All right, briefing on the South Dakota Department of Public Safety programming error with the voter registration. Good morning, Leah.
Good morning, Leah Anderson, Auditor's Office. So in addition to being busy with other election-related items, the Auditor's Office was notified on January 19th by the Secretary of State's office that due to a programming error with Department of Public Safety, that's who does driver's licenses, that approximately 5,153 voter registration updates and new requests were not properly transmitted to our county through the total voter registration system. This error dates back to July of 2023. A copy of the draft letter was attached to my briefing memo so that you could see that letter. They began sending that letter out 2 days ago. We've already gotten phone calls and comments asking us about this. We don't have the actual file sent to us yet with all of the voter registrations that we have to process. That will probably begin happening later this week or next week. My reason for bringing this to your attention today is that it will have an impact on our workload in the coming weeks. We will need to bring in some of our extra seasonal staff, the election staff, to assist in getting these registrations updated and also to process the new voter registrations. This would involve sending out to these voters the acknowledgement cards, so it will also impact our postage budget. And I do not know what that financial impact is yet fully. I did reach out to the Secretary of State and the Department of Public Safety, asking them for either consideration of partial or full reimbursement. They have denied my request. So I'm just bringing this to your attention in the event that it impacts our budget towards the end of the year, so that you're aware of this extra work that we have. And I can answer questions if you have them.
Thank you, Leah. Questions for Leah? Commissioner Bleinberg.
I'm sure there's never a good time for something like this to come up, so it's unfortunate that it's happening now. But I'm curious, do you know any idea how many submissions like this you would normally see in either month or year? It sounds like it was a little over 6 months that this was.
Yeah, it actually goes back about, well, since July, maybe about 7-8 months. The timing of this change, or this error that occurred, was interesting because it also was the same time frame where our former election coordinator had resigned, and that was the end of her time with us, was right at when this started happening. So we didn't catch it, but because we didn't see a change in those numbers. But if you take this number and you divide it out, then we should have had about 700-ish extra voter registrations during the month. Now, these aren't new registrations. Most of these are updates. So as a person goes to the driver's licensing office, if they don't opt out of updating their voter registration, then it automatically sends it through to us, even if there's no changes. So this varies on a daily basis. A lot of the ones that we get, there are no changes, but we still have to process them. So I would say about 700 a month.
Okay. It is kind of confusing for the person. I just had to renew my driver's license in person, and even though I've heard you talk about it, it took me a minute to figure out if I was supposed to check that box or not check that box. So
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of duplicates.
Other questions? Can you elaborate on how this error was discovered?
I can only elaborate based on the information I was given. The letter that they included said that while auditing voter registration records, they discovered that some of the registrations were not fully transmitted. The only explanation I've gotten is that most of these are from online voter registration updates. So that's why most of these are just updates, but there are about 684 new registrations that will be coming in with this, and those are the ones that will take extra time. But the Department of Public Safety and the Secretary of State's office honestly has not been very forthcoming about this information, and I've reached out to both offices and they haven't given me much information.
Is it voter registration, you said, or is it driver's license registration?
Oh, it's both. So when you go and get your driver's license, if you don't opt out, you're automatically registered to vote. So that's how it impacts our office.
So if people were changing their voter registration, this was also impacted as part of that number? Is that?
It can be, yes.
Okay. Mr. Bogue, yes.
Mr. Chairman, Eric Bogue, State's Attorney's Office. I was also involved in the correspondence or communication from the Secretary of State's office. A little additional background, a little bit of a smile I think has to come with this, because it's very similar to the Y2K issue. Is literally the programming that they changed in July of 23 impacted the 9 largest counties. So instead of getting a 2-digit code for those counties, they only had a 1-digit code. And as a result, those ended up in a non-responsive database file, so they didn't get sent to the counties as they would have normally been. So it's only those 9 largest counties, of course, Minnehaha County being the largest of those, the vast majority. I think it was about 12,000 total registrations that were impacted, but of that number, as Auditor Anderson said, in excess of 5,000 of them were from Minnehaha County. So,
thank you for that information. Other questions? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. And we do have public comment if anybody would like to talk about this item. All right. That was a briefing. Moving on then to a briefing on the medical cannabis dispensary application issuance timeline. Kim?
Good morning, Commissioners. Kim Christensen, the Auditor's Office. Minnehaha County has determined the availability of a medical cannabis license pursuant to Ordinance MC 60-21. We're proposing the following outline. We're going to notify the Commission today of the application period. We'll be issuing a press release later today. The application period will begin February 12th. The application period is going to end April 11th, and the latest date to submit the qualifying application for Commission approval will be at your June 11th meeting. Pursuant to the ordinance, the county shall object or approve the license within 60 days following the submission of the application, or within 60 days of the random selection process, whatever is later. The 60-day period may be tolled pending the applicant's appeal or application for conditional use permit. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Kim. Questions for Kim? So if we don't get any applicants, we don't have a procedure for that, do we?
You are correct.
And that could be corrected by commission action, or is that
I'm
the
going to
state?
defer to state's attorney on that, so.
Okay. If you would, please, sir.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, Eric Boak, State's Attorney's Office. Actually, the ordinance does provide that we would just start the process again. It does not dictate that it start immediately, so we could sit for a reasonable period of time. There are certainly several bills that have been introduced in the legislative session. Whether any of those survive the process at this point is unknown. But if the Board of Commissioners would elect to instruct the Auditor's Office to hold off should this round of application process result in no applications, I think that would certainly be understandable, reasonable, and prudent to wait to see how the impact of any new legislation would impact that process.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Kim, what's the cost of posting the notice? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can certainly get you that information.
If you would.
And stuff. We'll start a lot of that process today, and then throughout the week I'll be getting everything ready for the start of applications next week.
Because there's a definite cost to the county for advertising this,
Yes.
so I'd
Yep.
like to, if you could
Yep.
let the commissioners know what that is, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Commissioner Bleinberg.
Thank you. I'm not sure if you're prepared to answer this question. I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, but I'm just curious, how different is this process for the applicant as opposed to applying for a liquor license in the county?
It's a little different. There's an actual application. I did not attach, but I do have copies down in our office. It is received as a sealed application. So when the applications come back to the auditor's office, they are in a sealed envelope. They remain sealed until the application period has closed or the random selection has occurred, and then we do open them to review with the assistance of planning and zoning and state's attorney to review the applications. And then we move forward with the process like that. So where most liquor licenses, if they know we have them, they fill out the state application. This one is specific to Minnehaha County.
Okay, thank you, Kim.
Other questions? All righty, this was again a briefing. Thank you, Kim. All right, so moving on. Consider a petition to compromise liens DPNO 103232 and DPNO 77854. Melinda, and I'm sure we'll be taking these as two separate actions.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good morning, Melinda Storley, Commission Office. The action requested today is to consider a motion to compromise two liens for the petitioner. Lien DPNO 103232 in full with payment of $948, which is 50% of that current balance of the lien. And the second action would be to release the petitioner from the responsibility of joint lien DPNO 77854 with no payment, leaving the ex-spouse to satisfy the entirety of the lien. The petitioner has been working with Southeastern Development Foundation on a real estate transaction to purchase a $25,000 home and has committed to a closing date of March 7th. She states that she's been working diligently to improve her finances over the last years, in spite of having to overcome personal family obstacles mentioned in her narrative. She is asking if the board would consider the reasons for her request. In lien DPNO 103232, it represents poor relief in the amount of $1,896 recorded in 2021. She states in her narrative that she was under the impression she had applied for South Dakota Cares assistance, which would not have been repaid. I confirmed with Human Services that she did apply for South Dakota Cares assistance. However, her Human Services case manager interview notes state that her application was denied, and then her appeal on that decision was denied as well. Also noted was that she agreed to receive assistance that did not fall under South Dakota Cares and was informed that the funding would be recorded as a county lien. She is concerned that paying the full amount of this lien would deplete the funds she has reserved for the home purchase closing and the move thereafter. So she's asking if you would consider accepting her offer of $948. Joint lien DPNO 77854 represents $3,191.78 in poor relief and legal counsel fees recorded between 2012 and 2021. The petitioner stated that the couple divorced October 2014, but that they had separated in 2011, and although they remained married, they resided at separate addresses. Excuse me. She believes that she should not be responsible for any assistance she did not apply for, especially since she did pay child support from 2013 to 2021. I did confirm that the legal counsel fees are all for the benefit of her ex-spouse and that he applied for rental and utility assistance recorded between 2012 and 2016 for himself and the children. She asks if you would consider releasing her from the responsibility of this lien, leaving her ex-spouse to satisfy the entirety of the lien. She is currently employed and lists assets totaling $29,356 and liabilities totaling $0. Her 2023 W-2 wages were $49,223.79. Her 2022 income taxes show $47,007 in wages, child tax credit of $2,500, and a refund of $3,306. Her two most recent weekly pay period stubs average $1,553.19. I did confirm that the purchase contract is for $25,000 with a closing date of March 7th.
Thank you, Melinda. Questions for Melinda?
I'm just constantly thankful for you, Melinda. You do a great job of putting together a lot of information in a very concise, understandable fashion, and it's very helpful. So thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I have one question. So on the second one, the 77854, the petitioner was actually paying child support to the spouse that she was estranged from, and he had also received poor relief. So she's asking that go back to the ex.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That he be
Just want to make sure I
responsible for all of
understood
it.
that. Okay, thank you. If there's no more questions, this is an opportunity for the petitioner, if they so wish, to address the commission. You do not need to. You do not need to come to the podium, and you do not need to identify yourself. If you'd like to stand where you are to add to what we've already heard, we welcome you to do so. You can do it from there. If you want to come up, that's fine too.
I don't know what to do. Good morning. Thank you for your consideration. And thank you, Melinda.
She is kind of demanding, but she gets the job done, so I thank her also. All righty. Do we take public comment on a petition? Okay, I didn't think so. Okay. So we won't do that in the future then. So, okay. Turn it to the commission for discussion and action. These are going to be two separate items, so let's start with DPNO 103232, where the petitioner is offered to pay 1/2 of the amount due, so it's $900 and change roughly, $948.
$948.
Okay. Commissioner Bender.
Well, I'll just kick it off here. I would say that I'm very complimentary for the applicant. It does look like you've done a good job of addressing your liabilities. I think the thing that is the most confusing or different for me, as for a lot of these other applications that we've looked at, is that you've done such a good job that it looks like perhaps you could afford to pay more than you're offering. I mean, you have a brand new vehicle that appears to not have any debt on it. You have a very good job. We are trying to be stewards of the taxpayers' money. That's money that was advanced to you in a time where you were experiencing difficulties. And so generally we're trying to be good stewards of that taxpayers' money. And so that's, to me, that's the thing I'm struggling with the most here, is that it appears that perhaps you are in a position to pay back more than you're offering right now.
Commissioner Bleinberg.
I would agree with the comments of Commissioner Bender. With the first lien, I was just curious if the applicant would be able to do more than the initial offer that we are proposed with today.
If the applicant would like to address that, now would be your opportunity.
Commissioner, did you say that I didn't have a balance on my car? Or
You don't reflect any debt. Do you have debt on your vehicle?
I make payments to my car. I never bought it wholly or anything.
Okay. I wondered about that because the information that you provided shows that you have no debt, but if you have debt on your car, that would give us a different picture than what we have right now.
Yes, I do. I make payments towards my car.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? I guess I have one, if I may. I mean, our standard has been 50%, and I agree with Commissioner Bender if the ability to pay it is there, but this is one of those last-minute things that comes up right before a loan closing, and it's like, if I know from reading your narrative that you were under the assumption this was South Dakota Cares money, not Minnehaha County rental assistance, and there is a difference there. So I am okay with the offer of the 50% because we have set several precedences on that's what we accept. So I'm willing to accept that in this case. I can't make a motion though.
Mr. Chair, I accept the line of questioning that led to some clarification, and I'm comfortable. So I'll make the motion on this first lien to compromise at 50%.
Have a motion?
I'll second that.
We have a second. Continued discussion.
I'm just curious, can the applicant tell us how much debt you have on your vehicle?
I just got it last March.
So you paid $28,000 for it. How much did you finance?
I think it's $32,000.
Okay, so the whole thing plus fees or
Yes.
yeah,
correct.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask a
Commissioner
question
Bleinberg.
also, if you don't mind? I'm just curious, in your narrative, you mentioned at the time that you needed the relief that you had taken in your children and a grandchild, which I know COVID was a trying time for all of us.
Yes.
Were they financially dependent on you at that time?
Yes, absolutely.
All three? Okay.
Other questions or discussion? Okay, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote then on DPNO 103232.
Kipley,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Bender,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on then to remove the petitioner from DPNO 77854 and leave the lien in full on her ex-spouse. Questions, comments, motion? Commissioner Bender.
This one is easier for me. It appears that, with the help of Melinda, that we've clarified that those obligations do belong to the ex-spouse. So I would be in favor of a motion to relieve the applicant from those debts and leave those debts on the ex-spouse. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
Motion second, comments?
Just one point of clarification for Melinda. There, when we itemize those, that does include some public defender elements?
For the male listed on that lien.
Okay.
For her ex.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I concur with that then.
I also have a clarification I'd like to ask
Weinberg?
about. Thank you. How does the applicant become a lienee after the divorce? Is that just by nature of?
The lien originated in 2012, I believe it was. Actually, he received assistance in 2011 and it was recorded in 2012. During the case manager's interview, they always ask, are you married, divorced, whatever. So he stated that he was married, even though they were separated at the time, and that's how her name became attached. But I did confirm that every application for poor relief and legal counsel was applied for by her ex-spouse.
Thank you for your work on that.
Good clarification. All righty. I have a motion. All right, call the roll.
Bender,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very
Good
much.
job.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Authorize the chair to sign the plat of Track 6A Adjustment Training Center tracks. I have no idea what this is, Tyler.
Tyler Clack, Commission Office. So with the new Juvenile Justice Center is being built on the current location of the Juvenile Detention Center. If you kind of picture where that is, next to it, about to the east, there's a large empty field. The county owns that property. That property, as you get further east, right up to the property line, there are two additional sections of land that are platted separately. The action for you today is to replat that entirety, which the county owns, all of it, into one parcel as we move forward with the building project.
Okay. Questions for Tyler? Is there a plating fee being paid to the city for doing this?
So there is. This is one of the fees that we do pay for. It's $110.
Oh, okay, not terrible. And is there an easement across this property to that little garage that sits there on the other property, or is that?
It's not on, gosh, I don't believe it's on the county property. The easement would be on the property that the church is.
No access easement or anything like that?
They access
Okay.
it through the church parking lot.
Okay. So I do know what it is. Okay, thank you. All right, public comment. Nobody here to talk about this, then we'll look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
All right,
Second?
motion and a second, call the roll.
Bender,
Aye.
Blindberg,
Aye.
Kipley,
Aye.
Benega,
Aye.
Karski.
Aye, motion carries. All right, legislative update.
All right, Tyler Clack, Commission Office. So today, as we all celebrate, is day 19 of the legislative session. I want to update specifically on some of the county funding related bills. Two to start off with is HB 1007 and Senate Bill 105. These are both related to how veteran services officers are either employed or not employed by county offices. Both are progressing, and 105 is a joint appropriation, so that one will be heard a little bit later once revenues are set, I believe is kind of what they have to wait for. Senate or House Bill 1007 though has passed the House unanimously actually, so that'll be onto Senate Military and Veterans Affairs, and I can kind of speak to the differences if you want me to, but I'll come back to that after. 1070, which would have allowed counties to use the Obligation Recovery Center that the state owns, was deferred to the 41st day. For those who aren't maybe familiar with this process, that's a day that doesn't exist in the legislative session, so it effectively kills the bill. 1194 would allow counties to kind of recoup some of the money that they spend as a part of working on TIF projects, which is relatively minor as far as Minnehaha County is concerned. Senate Bill 4 has passed and is waiting for the governor's signature. That is to allow townships a little more flexibility in the amount of contracts they can get for snow removal. Senate Bill 31, which would create the Indigent Legal Services Fund, has been referred to joint appropriations. 187 would allow for $7 million to be appropriated for cybersecurity measures. That one hasn't had any hearings yet either. And then Senate Bill 197 would reallocate how the alcohol beverage tax is distributed, where the counties would now receive 50% instead of 25% we currently get. And just to kind of a day to keep in mind, all of this is moving around, but on February 21st is the sort of deadline that they need to hit for each bill to move over to the other house. But until then, we'll keep watching these as they move.
Questions for Tyler? I always do. So this House Bill 1007 and Senate Bill 105 really seem to be at odds with each other. It looks like the House bill is passed.
It's passed the House side, so it's waiting for Senate committee hearings.
Oh, it passed both the House committee and the House of Representatives. Okay, and then the Senate bill. So does the Senate bill require, I mean, would that require us to hire additional VSOs?
Yeah, so the way I have kind of read it is that we'd have, I believe, 4 instead of the 1 that we have right now. It's based on the total amount of veterans in your community, not necessarily the amount of veterans that necessarily ask for help in some form. That would require every county to hire based on that proportion. 1007 allows for a county to say, we can do it ourselves, or we're going to contract with the state Department of Veteran Affairs to provide that service.
Okay. So
105 requires a little bit more money from the state, so that's why it's with appropriations.
Does 105, does it require, is that an unfunded mandate back to the counties then? I mean, 3 more VSOs, I mean, that's $250,000.
So it is not unfunded. You would be reimbursed for their salaries, and it wouldn't be, right now we get, I believe, 20, it's not a lot. But we do get some money back for that position.
About a fourth of the cost.
Right. This would be a fully paid for position. We would have to house them, so there'd be some costs associated with that, but the personnel salary and benefits would be reimbursed.
And I'm all for helping veterans out, but I'm also, aware of the tax dollars being paid for all these services too, so. Yeah. Other questions? All righty. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
All right, we are at the opportunity for public comments. So just ask the speakers if anybody was going to do public comment that they signed in. So if anybody would like to address the commission about any non-agenda item, you have 5 minutes, and we have a total of 30 minutes. So, morning.
Morning. My name is Gary Meyer. In looking through the agenda items last weekend for today's meeting, I found agenda item 29 to be quite interesting. How often have you all told us that our voting software is the most accurate, dependable, proven software in the industry? Computers are the way to go. They are 100% accurate. And yet item number 29 on the agenda says that there was a computer glitch that caused a problem. And here we are in a predicament having to hire more people to fix an error made by the computer. So just to be clear, I agree that computers do exactly what they are told 100% of the time. And as you have often reminded us, computers are way more accurate than people. But as a former computer programmer, computers only do what people program them to do. So here we are having to hire people to fix a problem caused by a computer program, writing a computer program who works for the company that is running our elections and deciding our elections outcome. That same company that you have touted to be the most reliable and proven company, endorsed and vetted by our SOS to do the job. And how was that error found? And Dean, you asked that question, and that answer was in the handouts that were provided for you. It was found while performing an audit. Makes me wonder why we don't have a human audit our elections to see if there's any computer glitches counting our votes. Now maybe this program error was just a mistake, causing our voter rolls to be screwed up. Or maybe it wasn't. We've already proven our voter rolls are not accurate, but whichever, it was found by a human and need to be fixed by a human. I think it's high time to turn over the CVRs along with any other documentation to audit our past elections before forging blindly ahead with our next election. After all, Monet Johnson has openly admitted the CVRs do exist. They don't contain public-private info. They are not proprietary to ES&S, and they are public record. And ES&S has openly stated and agreed with these same facts at that infamous December 4th meeting between the Minnehaha County Auditor, ES&S, and the Secretary of State. That was, much to your dismay, later aired, exposing all the secrets that have been continuously hidden. I think it's time you all come clean and let us prove that our elections are safe and accurate, and turn over the information and prove that the computers that are counting our votes don't have the same problem that they have bringing the information into our voter registration. Thank you.
All right, any other public comment? Please, sir.
Again, name is Glenn Furstenberg, and I have Chet handing out some pamphlets I want you guys to look at
You
real
can
quick.
hand them to them, and then they'll pass them out to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this involves, and I know you guys probably remember me from the Miller Pallet confrontation that we had here. This involves, I will call CUP ordinance enforcement, and in this case, it's a lack of enforcement of the CUP. I'm going to outline here real quick, and I'm going to keep this very short. In the CUP, the guideline was 23-51. There was also a solid waste permit, 23-02. County Commission gave approval to Miller's to run a commercial tree grinding operation with certain conditions being completed prior to opening for business. They have been open since January 1st. One condition is that a hard surface driveway must be installed for at least 150 feet. This is not done and is a clear violation of the CUP. Their site map also includes a turnaround area for trucks. Gravel surface on this area is also part of the CUP and solid waste permit. This is not done and is another clear violation of the CUP and solid waste permit. And as you guys can recall, I'm sure we all know we had a very nice fall. We haven't had a winter up until they opened, hardly at all. There hasn't been any frost in the ground. So they had plenty of time to get these things done. They're not done, and they are open. I have approached county staff in person on January 26th and was told that staff had given approval to Miller's to open with the condition that the hard surface driveway would have to be installed by April 15th. Staff told me that it was because of the weather and that Miller's didn't have time to get the hard surface driveway in. Staff also indicated that they brought the issue up to the county commissioners, and commissioners did not deny or approve such opening prior to the hard surface being installed. There are a few items I'd like to have addressed here. Who allowed Miller's to open without the CUP and solid waste guidelines being met? Is there a county ordinance that allows for a county employee to override a CUP or solid waste permit? If so, could someone point that out to me? I have searched and I can't find any kind of ordinance that says that a county employee has the right to override a CUP. I'm also a licensed contractor. When I pull permits for any new construction, the project must be completely done prior to occupancy. I would ask that Miller's be held to the same guidelines. Are we putting the county at risk for letting Miller's open without a CUP and solid waste guidelines being met? Who is going to be responsible for an accident since approval was given by the county for Miller's to open prior to the CUP and solid waste permit conditions being met? As a citizen and a taxpayer, I feel it's better to get this out in the open now instead of after something bad happens on their site or on the highway. Miller's knew about the CUP guidelines before they made the land purchase. They knew winter was coming on, and yet they moved forward with the project. I have never heard of an operation to be allowed to open early because of the weather or because of winter setting in. It just seems that to have proper representation, we must hold everyone to the same standards. What are their plans for the mud on the roads between the spring thaw and the time that that driveway gets installed? These safety issues need to be addressed. I would like to answer these questions. As a citizen of the county, I think that is the least I can ask for. My opinion is that this operation needs to be closed until the guidelines are met. And I just want to draw your attention. I know I had a pamphlet out to you. I want to call your attention to the last page I left for you guys, guys and gals. I just stopped out there yesterday, and I've taken pictures prior to that too, but yesterday, if you look along where their guard shack is, they are actually making a turn into that mud and coming out onto the road, dragging that stuff out. And you can see on the highway, if the picture up to the top left, they're dragging that mud out in that road. Then on top of that, I've also seen a truck pull into that driveway, and since there is no turnaround, they back out onto the highway to get out. Very dangerous. And somebody let these people open up without the CUP guidelines being done. And I want to know, is the county at risk for that? Because I'm a taxpayer. And if we're going to be held liable for that stuff, we need to know as a taxpayer. So again, I left my information on when I signed in with my address. I'd appreciate a response.
Mr. Furstenberg, I thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Okay.
I am going to tell you that this will get turned over to the commission liaison to the Planning and Zoning Office, and if you'd like it addressed at a meeting, we can do that. If you'd like it addressed to you privately, and then you can decide if you want to bring it back or not, it would be up to you.
I just want the guidelines enforced.
I understand. That's a reasonable request, sir.
When I approach this county staff, and I'm not going to throw names under the bus because I don't need to, I expect results. Who allowed them to open?
Okay.
That's all I'm asking for. And why did they allow them to open? And who gave them the authority to open? That's
I
what I'm
understand,
looking
sir.
for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Other public comment?
Hi, excuse me, Amy Johnson. My comments are also related to the Mueller wood processing site. I just wanted to take a minute and let you know of some concerns that I have regarding that property. On the December 29th issue of the Dakota Scout, which is a local online newspaper, it was reported that Mueller Pallets plans on donating the old farmhouse on that site to Hartford's Volunteer Fire and Rescue to use for a training burn. On the October 24th County Commission meeting, it was discussed how those old buildings on that property contain asbestos and will require proper remediation and disposal. I'm no expert on asbestos, but burning that does not sound like a great idea to me. And I don't know the rules and regulations that follow with that. But I do question if that is allowed, who's responsible for the cost of the cleanup once that's done? Does that fall to the property owners, or does that fall to Hartford Fire / Minnehaha County? And I'm not sure. I'm honestly asking. Not to mention the health hazards that would go along with burning something like that. That same news article also reports that Mueller is required to put in a paved driveway to decrease mud on the road. Glenn addressed that. Again, that has not been put into place with the warming temperatures. Mud is becoming an issue, coupled with the dense fog that we've had, makes for a really danger quarter to a half mile there. It was my understanding that the conditions of the CUP must be met prior to Mueller's opening for business, but apparently that has not happened. And I'm a little confused to that. Same question, why that has been allowed. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Other public comment? All righty. We will have a little bit of homework. Commission liaison reports. Anything to report? I unfortunately missed the Sioux Metro Growth Alliance meeting last week, so I have nothing to report there. I'll apologize for my inability to get to that. Tyler, were you there? I didn't ask you to go, so yeah, sorry. All right. Non-action commission discussion. All right. We do have an executive session, so we will recess out of this and go into executive session in the next door room in about 5 minutes. Well, I'd take a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of South Dakota Codified Law 125(2), 1, 3, and 4, and 6. So I need a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. So we will adjourn to recess to executive session next door. Thank you, everybody.